Universities South Africa, representing the 26 universities in the country. Thank you for joining us, Professor.
Thank you for having me.
A sad day, though. Given where we are now, what are the chances of salvaging this academic year?
It looked pretty bleak today, but I have to say that there has been some progress made. Several universities were open today for with academic programs running. So, University of KwaZulu-Natal is one of them. University of Stellenbosch, University of the Western Cape, and so while we saw this amazing kind of spill out of anger and tension at Wits today, I think there's hope, that we'll get into an academic
and Wits seems to be fighting to keep those lecture halls open. Is that the sense from universities right now? Let's at least try, because it's a crucial time.
Well, Wits had that little poll that they ran, and so I think there's an obligation to try and keep the academic program going. But I think that we also have to understand that for all of our universities, all 26 of them, if we lose another week or so, that will really put the 2016 academic project at grave danger.
Then we're talking about mass closures. Is that being discussed?
It is being discussed, and we have to begin to think quite hard about just what the implications of that are. As an example, something like 1,800 medical interns won't be available for January, and the hospitals are expecting them, and they won't be there. So the repercussions are pretty grim.
Huge. What about foreign students, people who've got bursaries? Those can't be rolled over. A whole lot of things will happen if you can't produce your results, basically.
Yes, correct. And of course, and the implications for the economy and so on are just as bleak. But most importantly, of course, it's the young people. It's the students and their families. Young people who were meant to graduate this year, who won't be if we had to have this shutdown. Having said that, I'm not yet at the point where I think that we're likely to shut down. I mean, I think that today, even with the turmoil at Wits, at the end of the day, I saw some signs that we're likely to get to the point where there might be a negotiation tonight and tomorrow that might lead us to...
How do you think we got here? And could it possibly be because government actually raised expectations by saying there would be no fee increase for this year, and then the next year, students expected more, but we had to have that fee increase because the money's not there?
Look, I think there's a huge consensus, around what has been achieved already. I mean, for instance, I think we all agree that there should be free education for the poor, and that I think every vice chancellor will agree to that. Every university council will agree to that. Even the Minister of Higher Education and Training agrees with that, and I think that.
Can I stop you there? To what extent is that already realized? Because there is support for the poor, and there is this sense that the poor will actually suffer, especially maybe those in a slightly higher bracket where their parents have had to scrimp and save for this year. Just explain that sentiment, and what sort of support do you get as a poor student now?
So that takes me to the next point, which is that I don't think that the students actually speak with a common voice. So there will be student organizations that think that the minister's deal is a good interim step, if you like, to the realization of free education for the poor. But there are others who feel, no, we want everything now. And I think that tension is also playing itself out on our campuses.
Again, the question, if you are a poor student, how much support do you actually get right now? Okay,
so if you're talking about 2016, if you're a student that's been admitted to university, and if you've qualified for a financial aid loan, then for all intents and purposes, you have a deferred payment to make once you graduate. Now that's problematic, of course, because it means that when students graduate, they end up with a loan that they have to repay, and with a debt. And if you look at the US, for example, those debts are just escalated. They escalate to a fantastic amount, really. So that is definitely something of deep concern. But having said that, the new remodeling of the National Students Financial Aid Scheme, which hopefully will kick in 2018, for that category of students, we'll look at a total grant, not a loan. So that will be free education for that category of students. And then, of course, there's the other categories, that category that we refer to as the missing middle. And for that category, the plan is that it'll be a mixture of loan and grant. So that's the plan for 2018. But having said that, I think, the fact that I think there's a growing consensus that free education for the poor is not something to be scoffed at. That's something that should be realized.
So we're probably heading towards that situation where it's on a sliding scale, basically.
Correct.
And is this the right call now? I guess what the students are calling for is something more extreme, but we have these priorities in the country. The students' voices are loud, but have we got to a point where we have quality primary school education,
yes.
where the tech students are also cared for? Should this be a priority right now? I guess
that's where the big debate kicks in terms of free education for all, right? I mean, there's a very strong view represented by some that there should be free education for all. And there are others that say, that's crazy, because if you did that, the only thing that you could do is take money away from basic education or take money away from health and put it into higher education. And then there's the big question, which is higher education the right place to invest that money? So that's a big question, and
exactly.
it's a societal question.
Your view and the universities?
Yeah, my view, the universities, by the way, are saying, we're quite happy to go with free education for all, as long as we understand that the gap that's caused by the missing fees is not left as a gap, that somehow there's an income put into that. And there are various models that will allow you to do that. But your question, of course, remains the key question. Is it the right place to invest that money?
And what are the options for the universities? I mean, I've heard talk of possible privatisation. If the students don't let up and government doesn't let up as well, what happens then?
Yeah. No, there's absolutely no discussion at the moment about the privatisation of our public universities. I'm in touch with the vice chancellors regularly and the councils and so on, and there's absolutely no discussion of that nature. Having said that, I mean, if it turns out that there's a tremendous gap in funding, universities will have to look for resources elsewhere, and that of course complicates things. But at the moment, I'm absolutely sure that there's no conversation.
Okay, well that is good news, because you hear of just this digging in of heels on all sides. What about the possibility of staff let-offs? Because we haven't seen that thus far. The situation has been stable.
Well, one of the things that we were very pleased about in terms of that minister's statement of 19th of September was the fact that the fee increase, or the increase in income to the university, was set at the 8% level rather than the 6% level. Had it been set at the 6% level, then we estimate that about 16 of our universities would have had to enter a significant program of cuts and retrenchments and so on. So we think that 8% increase gives the universities the space to understand that although it will be a tough year, 2017, that it will be a year that we can manage.
All right. And finally, Professor, I'm an ex-graduate. Are you worried at all that our universities will be seen in a different light globally? We have some great universities, people with degrees that they are proud of right now.
No, that's a very serious question, I think. Let me make 2 points about that. The one is that we're in this crisis in the first instance because of the fact that we have a chronic underfunding of higher education over the last 20 years. And the fact of the matter is that the subsidy per student has been in decline, and that has meant that over the years the fee increase has been larger than inflation, for example. So that's serious. That's a serious question.
It's important to consider.
But the second point, of course, is that if we have 2 or 3 years of instability like we have now, then you can bet your last penny that the quality of our teaching and learning, the quality of our research, our capacity to innovate, all of that will be deeply affected.
All right. Well, I hope that you are right, that this academic year can be salvaged. And of course, we'll keep you up to date with all the action. We brought you that SAPS announcement earlier following the clashes at Wits today.